The first time I saw her, I wasn't impressed. 3 feet tall, with a deceptively delicate frame, Ambassador Lily of Serenia looked like she could be toppled by a strong gust from the station's ventilation system. Her species' reputation for shrewd diplomacy preceded her. But even so, I couldn't help but feel a flutter of dismissiveness, a feeling I would come to deeply regret. As chief negotiator for Earth's diplomatic corps aboard Embassy Ring Alpha, I've been tasked with maintaining human interests in the most significant peace talks the galaxy had seen in decades. The Interstellar Peace Conference would either unite fractured alliances or plunge us all back into the Cold War that had defined space politics for generations. No pressure. Sebastian Vance? Her voice was melodic but firm, cutting through the cacophony of the diplomatic reception hall. Hundreds of delegates from dozens of species mingled awkwardly, sizing each other up while pretending to make small talk. I turned to find her staring up at me, those distinctive Serenian eyes, emerald green with flecks of gold, fixed on mine with unsettling intensity. Her platinum blonde hair was woven into a complex braid that wrapped around her head like a crown, adorned with what appeared to be living flowers that pulsed with bioluminescence. Ambassador Lily. I offered the customary half-bow that human protocol officers had drilled into us for Serenian interactions. An honor to meet you. I trust your journey to Alpha Ring was comfortable. Her translator, a tall, lanky being with 4 arms named Jax, stood beside her, but she waved him off when he started to speak. Instead, she responded in flawless English. Comfort is irrelevant when peace hangs in the balance. Wouldn't you agree, Negotiator Vance? She smiled, revealing teeth that were just a touch too sharp to be human. Though I admit, your artificial gravity settings make me feel almost buoyant. I relaxed slightly. At least she had a sense of humor. Most delegates were walking stress bundles at this stage of negotiations. Please call me Sebastian. I gestured toward the main hall where the opening ceremonies would begin soon. Shall we? What happened next would change the course of interstellar relations forever, and my life along with it. As delegates filed into their formal positions for the ceremonial opening, I took my place in the second row of Earth's delegation. Ambassador Lily was positioned directly across the central aisle, representing the Serenian Confederacy. The protocol called for each delegation leader to offer a formal greeting to their counterparts, usually a slight bow, a hand gesture, or whatever passed for respectful acknowledgement in their culture. When it was the Serenians' turn, Lily stepped forward. I expected her to make the traditional Serenian greeting, a complex gesture involving both hands pressed together and a slight tilt of the head. Instead, she did something that sent shockwaves through the assembly. She dragged a small wooden crate, where she got it from, I'll never know, positioning it directly in front of me. With graceful movements that belied her small stature, she climbed atop it, bringing her face level with mine. Before I could process what was happening, she leaned forward and placed a gentle kiss on my cheek. The entire hall went silent. Then, pandemonium erupted. What just happened? I hissed to Andrea, my deputy negotiator, as murmurs and shouts cascaded through the chamber. Andrea's face was drained of color. Sebastian, I think she just... Jax, Lily's translator, stepped forward, his voice booming through the chaos. The ambassador of Serenia has enacted the ancient rite of Kalindra, a formal betrothal proposal accorded only to those deemed worthy of joining the highest houses of Serenia. Under interstellar cultural protection treaties, this constitutes a culturally binding engagement between Ambassador Lily and Negotiator Vance. My mind went blank as delegations erupted into frenzied discussions. Some appeared outraged, others amused, and a few looked downright suspicious. The Arcturian delegation was already filing a formal protest, while the Andromedan representatives seemed to be placing bets. This is a diplomatic incident. Captain Riker, my security chief, growled into my ear. We need to refute this immediately. But Lily's eyes held mine, a mixture of challenge and something I couldn't quite identify shimmering in their depths. Her expression was innocent, but there was a hint of calculation that made my diplomatic instincts flare. Ambassador Carvin, the senior human diplomat and my superior, approached swiftly. A tall, distinguished man with silver temples and a perpetual expression of mild disdain. He surveyed the situation with practiced calm. "Not here," he murmured. "Play along for now. We'll sort this out privately." A public rejection could derail the entire conference. And so, with the universe watching, I forced a smile and extended my hand to Lily, helping her down from her crate as if this had been rehearsed. The murmurs continued, but the immediate crisis was averted. Only later, when we were hastily summoned to an emergency meeting of the human delegation, did I fully grasp the gravity of the situation. This is either the most brazen political maneuver I've seen in 30 years of diplomacy, or the most bizarre cultural misunderstanding, Carvin said, pacing the secure conference room. Either way, we're stuck. Surely we can explain that I didn't consent to this. This engagement, I argued, under the Treaty of New Singapore, all recognized cultural bonding rituals are to be respected as legally binding unless explicitly rejected at the moment of offering, Andrea recited, scrolling through her datapad. She kissed you, you didn't object, helped her down, and even smiled. By interstellar law, you accepted. I didn't know what she was doing. I protested. Irrelevant, Carvin said coldly. The Serenians are master strategists. This alliance, through you, gives them unprecedented access to Earth's negotiating position. Breaking it off would not only insult them, but could push them toward the Arcturian alliance. We cannot afford that. So what? I have to marry her. The absurdity of it all was beginning to sink in. Not necessarily marry, Andrea clarified, but you do need to maintain the engagement through the conference. We'll find a diplomatic exit strategy later. Riker, ever practical, added, consider it an undercover assignment. Play the besotted fiancé, gather intelligence on their real motivations, and we'll extract you once the peace treaty is signed. I slumped in my chair. Why me? Why not Carvin or someone with more authority? Carvin's smile didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps Ambassador Lily has a type. His tone made it clear he considered this a personal failing on my part. Regardless, you will do your duty for Earth. Is that understood, Negotiator Vance? Yes, sir. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. Little did I know that this forced charade would be the least of my problems in the days to come. The following morning, I found myself seated beside Lily at the first official negotiation session. The circular table was designed to put all delegates on equal footing, but the whispers and glances made it clear that our engagement was the main topic on everyone's minds. You look troubled, my betrothed, Lily whispered, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. Wouldn't you be? I kept my expression neutral for the benefit of watching eyes. You forced me into a political marriage without my consent. Her small hand reached for mine under the table, and I flinched but allowed the contact. Appearances had to be maintained. Perhaps I saw something in you worth claiming, she said enigmatically. Besides, you humans have a saying about keeping friends close and enemies closer, do you not? Before I could respond, the conference chairman called the session to order. For the next several hours, I divided my attention between the complex trade negotiations and the even more complex puzzle sitting beside me. What was Lily's game? The Serenians were known for their political acumen, but this move seemed almost reckless. During the midday recess, Lily insisted we take lunch together, as befits a newly engaged couple, and I reluctantly agreed. We found ourselves in one of the station's biodomes, a carefully cultivated garden representing various planetary ecosystems. The Terran section, with its oak trees and wildflowers, made me unexpectedly homesick. You're not at all what I expected, Lily admitted as we sat on a bench surrounded by buzzing pollinators. And what did you expect? I asked, genuinely curious. Earth sends its most ruthless, ambitious diplomats to these conferences. I expected someone harder. She studied me with those unnerving eyes. You hide it well, but there's kindness in you, Sebastian Vance. Kindness doesn't win interstellar negotiations, I countered. No? Then perhaps we've been negotiating incorrectly all these centuries. She plucked a small blue flower and twirled it between her fingers. On Serenia, We believe that the strongest alliances are built on mutual understanding, not mutual fear. Something in her sincerity made me pause. Then why the deception? Why not approach me directly? The smile faded from her face. Some moves must be made boldly or not at all. There are forces at work in this conference that... A sudden blaring alarm cut her off. Red emergency lights began flashing throughout the biodome. Attention all delegates, the station's AI announced, its voice eerily calm. A Level 3 environmental breach has been detected. Please proceed to your designated safe zones immediately. People around us began moving quickly toward the exits. I instinctively reached for Lily's hand, then caught myself. Was this protective gesture real or part of our charade? What's happening? She asked. All pretense dropped from her voice. Could be anything. Hull breach, atmospheric contamination. I scanned the area, years of emergency drills kicking in. We need to get to the diplomatic corridor. It has independent life support. As we hurried toward the exit, I noticed something odd. The human delegation was moving toward a different section than the one designated for us. Carvin was directing them with urgent gestures. Sebastian. Andrea spotted us and waved frantically. This way, but before we could reach them, a massive transparent barrier slammed down between sections of the station, cutting off our path. Behind the barrier, I saw Andrea's mouth moving, but couldn't hear her words. Other barriers were dropping throughout the station, creating isolated pockets of delegates. The station's going into quarantine mode, I realized aloud. But that's only supposed to happen in case of a biological attack. Lily's face had gone pale. This is no accident. The lights flickered, then dimmed to emergency levels. Around us, delegates from various species were panicking, some pounding on the barriers, others frantically operating their communication devices, all without success. Communications are being jammed, I muttered, checking my own device. Someone's taking control of the station. Lily tugged at my sleeve, pointing to a maintenance hatch partially hidden behind an ornamental shrub. There, she whispered. Service tunnels run throughout the station. We can use them to reach the central hub. I stared at her. How do you know about the service tunnels? A hint of her earlier mischief returned. I make it my business to know escape routes, Sebastian. A 3-foot diplomat in a tall person's galaxy learns to be prepared. Against my better judgment, I followed her to the hatch. Using my diplomatic override, I managed to unseal it, and we slipped inside just as armed figures in unmarked tactical gear began flooding into the biodome. The service tunnel was cramped for me, but perfectly sized for Lily. She moved with confidence through the dimly lit passages, navigating turns and junctions with the ease of someone following a memorized map. You've been planning this, I accused, crawling behind her. This whole engagement thing, it was to get close to me for... What? What's happening, Lily? She stopped so abruptly, I nearly collided with her. I didn't plan this attack, if that's what you're implying. But yes, I did plan to forge an alliance with you. Why? Because someone is sabotaging the peace conference, and I believe they're in your delegation. Her voice was deadly serious. I needed access and protection that only a human connection could provide. Carvin, I breathed, the pieces suddenly falling into place, his odd behavior, directing our people away from the designated safe zone. Now you're thinking like a diplomat, she said grimly. I've suspected for months, but had no proof. The kiss was improvised but effective. So our engagement is just a political shield, I said, feeling strangely disappointed despite myself. Something flickered in her eyes. It served that purpose, yes. Whether it's only that remains to be seen. She turned and continued crawling. We need to reach the data archives. I believe that's where we'll find proof of Carvin's betrayal. And why should I trust you? I demanded. You've lied and manipulated me from the start. She looked back over her shoulder, her face illuminated by the tunnel's emergency lighting. You shouldn't trust me. Not yet. But right now, we're both trapped on a compromised station with armed hostiles. I'd say temporary alliance is our best option, wouldn't you? She had a point. Reluctantly, I followed her deeper into the station's hidden infrastructure, unsure if I was being led to salvation or an even more elaborate trap. We emerged into a dimly lit service corridor near the station's core. The normal hum of machinery had been replaced with an ominous silence, broken only by distant shouting and occasional alarm blares. "The life support systems have been compromised," I said, checking a status panel. "They're maintaining minimum atmosphere, but rerouting control protocols. Someone's trying to hold the entire station hostage. Can you access the security feeds?" Lily asked, standing on tiptoes to see the panel I was working on. After a few attempts with my security clearance, grainy footage appeared on the screen. What we saw confirmed our worst fears. Armed mercenaries were herding delegates into containment areas, while others were systematically taking control of key station systems. "There," Lily pointed to a feed showing the station's command center. Ambassador Carvin stood calmly beside a tall, hooded figure, giving directions to the armed forces. "Just as I suspected. I can't believe it," I whispered, though the evidence was before my eyes. "Carvin has been respected in diplomatic circles for decades. Why would he betray everything now? Power rarely shows its true face until it believes victory is assured," Lily said softly. "We need to move. The data archives are 2 levels down." As we made our way through the maintenance shafts, I found myself studying Lily with new eyes. Her small stature belied a fierce determination, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had prepared for crisis. Despite the deception that had brought us together, I was beginning to think there might be more to Ambassador Lily than political calculation. "You said you suspected Carvin for months," I said as we paused at a junction. "Why? And why not bring your concerns to the Conference Security Council?" Lily's expression darkened. 6 months ago, a Serenian outpost near the Arcturus boundary was attacked. Official reports blamed rogue Andromedan separatists, but our intelligence suggested human tactical patterns. When I tried to investigate through official channels, evidence disappeared, witnesses were reassigned, and my inquiries were buried under diplomatic bureaucracy. "And you think Carvin was behind it?" "I think Carvin represents interests that believe humanity should dominate, not cooperate. The peace conference threatens that vision." She met my gaze steadily. "The Serenians may be small in stature, Sebastian, but we have survived for millennia by recognizing predators before they strike." Something in her intensity made me believe her, despite my reservations. "The archives are just ahead. If there's evidence, that's where we'll find it." The data archives were housed in a heavily reinforced chamber, designed to survive even catastrophic station failure. Using my diplomatic credentials and Lily's unexpected knowledge of Serenian backdoor codes, we managed to override the security lockdown and slip inside. The archive room was cold, filled with humming data cores storing the unaltered records of every communication, transaction, and official action taken aboard Embassy Ring Alpha. Unlike the easily manipulated central database, these records were written to quantum crystal storage, unchangeable once recorded. "We need to find communications between Carvin and his co-conspirators," I said, accessing a terminal. "Anything revealing their plans or connections to the outpost attack." Lily moved to another access point, her small fingers flying over the controls with practiced ease. "I'm searching for unusual resource allocations or unauthorized access to security protocols." We worked in focused silence for several minutes, the only sound the soft hum of the data cores and our occasional murmurs of discovery. Despite the circumstances, I found myself impressed by Lily's technical abilities, another contradiction to the delicate diplomat she presented to the world. "Sebastian," she called suddenly, her voice tight with urgency. "I found something." I joined her at her terminal, having to crouch to view the screen properly. What I saw made my blood run cold. Displayed before us was a series of encrypted communications between Carvin and an entity identified only as Hegemony Command. The decrypted contents outlined a chilling strategy. The peace conference had been doomed from the start, intended only to gather all significant galactic leaders in one location. The station takeover was phase 1 of something called Operation Eclipse, a coordinated strike designed to eliminate key opposition figures and install puppet governments across multiple systems. "He's planning a coup on a galactic scale?" I whispered, scrolling through the documents. The attack on your outpost was a test run, and the Serenians were chosen as early targets because our diplomatic networks span multiple alliances, Lily added grimly. Eliminate us, and many smaller worlds lose their collective voice. Deeper in the files, we discovered the most disturbing element of Carvin's plan. The Serenians weren't just obstacles to be removed. They were to be weaponized. A biological agent had been developed, harmless to most species, but devastating to Serenian physiology. Once infected, a Serenian would become a carrier, spreading the agent to their own kind without symptoms until a remote trigger activated the pathogen. This is genocide, I said, horror washing over me. Carvin isn't just seeking human dominance. He's willing to eradicate entire species to achieve it. Lily's face had gone ashen, but her voice remained steady. We need to broadcast this evidence to all delegations and send a distress signal to the Galactic Council. If even one ship receives it. The archive door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, cutting her off mid-sentence. 5 armed figures entered, weapons trained on us, followed by Ambassador Carvin himself. I'm disappointed, Sebastian, Carvin said, his cultured voice echoing in the archive chamber. I had such hopes for your diplomatic career. You're committing treason against Earth and crimes against sentient life. I responded, stepping partially in front of Lily in an instinctive protective gesture. Carvin laughed, a cold, hollow sound. Treason? I'm securing humanity's rightful place in the galaxy. The time for playing fair with lesser species is over. Lesser species? Lily stepped forward, her diminutive form somehow filling the room with moral authority. Your prejudice blinds you to the truth, Ambassador. No single species can or should dominate the galaxy. Our differences are our strength. Charming sentiments from a race destined to become a footnote in history, Carvin sneered. Your biological peculiarities make you perfect vectors for our purpose. The irony is exquisite. The galaxy's great diplomats becoming the unwitting instruments of their own extinction. As he spoke, I noticed Lily subtly manipulating something at her wrist, a communication device disguised as jewelry. A small light blinked green, and the faintest smile touched her lips. You've never understood the Serenians, Carvin, she said, her voice growing stronger. We don't just practice diplomacy, we live it. Every word you've just spoken has been broadcast on the emergency diplomatic channel. Every delegation, every homeworld, and every military outpost within 50 light years has just heard your confession. Carvin's face contorted with rage. Kill them both, he ordered his guards. What happened next occurred with such speed that later I would struggle to recall the sequence correctly. Lily threw something that exploded in a blinding flash. I tackled her to the ground as weapons fire crisscrossed above us. Rolling behind a data core for cover, I found the small emergency weapon I'd concealed in my boot, a last resort tool I'd never expected to use. The guards, temporarily blinded, were firing wildly. I managed to hit one with a stun pulse, sending him crashing into a second guard. Lily, demonstrating unexpected agility, had somehow scaled one of the data stacks and jumped onto the shoulders of a third guard, using some kind of neural disruptor that sent him convulsing to the floor. In the chaos, Carvin was retreating toward the door, a look of pure hatred on his face. This changes nothing, he shouted. The operation is already in motion. I emerged from cover, weapon trained on him. It's over, Carvin. Stand down. He smiled, a terrible, knowing smile, and raised his hand to reveal a small detonator. If I can't reshape the galaxy, perhaps it's best no one does. Everything seemed to slow. I recognized the detonator design, linked to explosives powerful enough to rupture the station's core. Thousands would die instantly. Millions more would follow as the peace process collapsed into all-out war. Without conscious thought, I fired. The stun pulse hit Carvin square in the chest. As he fell, the detonator slipped from his fingers. Lily lunged for it, her small form sliding across the floor with surprising speed. She caught it just before it hit the ground, her finger instinctively pressing the safety override. For a moment, we simply stared at each other in the sudden silence, both processing how close we had come to catastrophe. Then alarms began blaring again, different this time. The station security systems had been reactivated. Through the archive windows, we could see security forces, the real ones, moving to secure the corridor. "How did you broadcast his confession?" I asked Lily as we caught our breath. She held up her delicate wrist, showing me an intricate bracelet. Serenian transmission technology. It's woven into our ceremonial attire, allows us to conference with our delegation during negotiations. A mischievous smile played at her lips. Also quite useful for exposing galactic conspiracies. Despite everything, I laughed, a release of tension and something else I wasn't quite ready to name. "You just saved billions of lives." "We did," she corrected gently, "though I believe you were about to take a stunned blasphemy back there." Quite the devoted fiancé. Before I could respond, security forces burst into the archives, followed by representatives from multiple delegations. In the hours that followed, order was gradually restored to Embassy Ring Alpha. Carvin's mercenaries, finding themselves exposed and outgunned, largely surrendered when offered amnesty in exchange for information. The full extent of the conspiracy was revealed to involve factions from several species, all united by a vision of authoritarian control. 3 days later, the conference reconvened in the main assembly hall. The atmosphere was transformed. Where there had been cold formality, now there was a genuine desire for connection and understanding. Nothing unites diverse groups like a common enemy and a narrowly averted catastrophe. As chief witnesses to Carvin's plot, Lily and I were asked to address the assembled delegations. Standing beside her at the podium, I was acutely aware of how our engagement had begun in this very room, on a foundation of deception and political calculation. After detailing the events and evidence for the official record, I found myself adding something unplanned. Ambassador Lily and I began our relationship under unusual and somewhat deceptive circumstances, I said, feeling her curious gaze upon me. A pretend engagement that served a political purpose. But in working together to uncover this conspiracy, I discovered something important about her, about myself, and about what truly matters in this vast galaxy we share. I turned to face her directly, no longer speaking to the assembly, but to the extraordinary woman beside me. "I choose you, Lily, not because of cultural obligation or diplomatic strategy, but because you showed me what courage and conviction truly look like. If you'll have me, for real this time, I would be honored to continue this journey together." A hush fell over the assembly. Lily's eyes widened in genuine surprise, perhaps the first time I'd seen her truly caught off guard. For a terrifying moment, she said nothing. Then, a smile bloomed across her face like a sunrise. "I accept," she said simply, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. Then, with a teasing glint, she added, "Though I seem to have misplaced my crate." Laughter rippled through the assembly, breaking the tension. I knelt down to bring myself to her eye level. "Allow me," I said softly, and kissed her as applause erupted around us. In the weeks that followed, the peace conference achieved what many had thought impossible: a framework for cooperation that respected the sovereignty and unique contributions of all member species. Lily and I were appointed as joint ambassadors to oversee the implementation of the new Galactic Accords, a position that would require us to travel extensively throughout known space, which suited us perfectly. 1 month after the crisis, we stood in the docking bay of Embassy Ring Alpha, watching as our new vessel, a refurbished diplomatic courier renamed Second Chance, prepared for departure. "Are you certain about this?" Jax asked Lily, helping load the last of her belongings. "You're abandoning a prestigious static position for a nomadic existence." "I've never been more certain," she replied, watching as I checked the ship systems. "Sometimes the best way to serve peace is from the frontier, not the center." Andrea approached me with a final data package. "The Council has approved your itinerary. You'll be starting with the outer colonies, then working your way in toward the core systems." "Perfect," I said, accepting the package. The smaller worlds need reassurance that their voices matter in this new arrangement. You know, Andrea said hesitantly, when this all started, I thought Lily had trapped you in an impossible situation. Now I'm wondering if she didn't set you free instead. I considered this as I watched Lily directing the loading procedures, her small form radiating competence and purpose. I think we freed each other, I said finally. As the docking bay cleared of personnel, Lily and I found ourselves alone for a moment before departure. She took my hand, her small fingers intertwining with mine. I have something for you, she said, reaching into a pocket of her diplomatic robes. A proper proposal this time. She opened her palm to reveal a ring unlike any I'd seen. A band crafted from metals that seemed to flow and shift, one moment silver like Earth's platinum, the next with the distinctive blue-green iridescence of Serenian Irixium. It's made from both worlds, she explained. Neither metal dominating, both enhanced by their union. I took the ring with emotion tightening my throat. It's perfect, like us. Her smile held a vulnerability I'd rarely seen her allow. No, I said, slipping the ring onto my finger. We're wonderfully imperfect, but we're better together than apart. The ship's intercom chimed, announcing final departure clearance. We boarded hand in hand, taking our positions on the bridge as the massive docking bay doors slid open to reveal the star-strewn void beyond. Where to first, Ambassador? I asked, as the navigation computer awaited coordinates. Lily's eyes sparkled with the reflection of distant stars. Everywhere, Negotiator Vance. We have a galaxy of differences to bridge. As our ship glided from the station into open space, I reflected on the strange path that had brought us together. A forced engagement, a conspiracy uncovered, a choice freely made. In a universe vast beyond comprehension, filled with beings of every conceivable form and mindset, perhaps the greatest discovery was that connection could bridge any difference, and love could indeed transcend the stars. Setting course for the future, I said, engaging the drive. Beside me, Lily smiled. Together, and the second chance leapt into the shimmering depths of space, carrying us toward whatever adventures awaited.